this is like really the catalyst for it all, the main why, the main fire in my belly. Take one thing away from this video, don't do that. Awful, 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 awful. This was when everything started to go downhill. Hi guys, welcome to today's video. This is one that I've been wanting to make for a really long time, and I honestly think that now is a perfect time to do so with the end of 2020 coming to an end, wrapping up. It's officially like the 4-year mark pretty much since I started my whole fitness journey. So hold on to your seats because this is going to be a roller coaster of a story. So first and foremost, I'm just going to start off with a little bit of background. I've always been a very active individual, an active child. My family has always valued health and wellness a ton. My mom was a bodybuilder and my dad himself is a gym rat. He loves to lift weights. And my mom was always a very good cook. We're Italian, so she would just always make very healthy, clean foods, which I'm so blessed to have had that growing up. I was an always active kid, like I said, so I was always like skiing, longboarding, paddleboarding, wakeboarding, surfing, like just I was kind of always outside running around, and I played a lot of sports growing up. So I played basketball, lacrosse, tennis, and track all throughout high school as well. And I was always super skinny. My dad always drew me literally as a stick figure with a circle and then sticks because my face is so round and I was that stick skinny. This all started in February of 2016. And like I said, I was always very skinny. I had a very just like plain, straight up and down athletic build. And you know, at that time I was in high school. I think I was a junior in high school. And that's when you kind of get to the age of boys and like you actually go through puberty and you think of attractiveness. It like becomes a thing. And that was like the thing at my school was people were obsessed with like people would talk about girls' butts. And for some reason, like I had absolutely none. Like I said, I was super skinny and just super an athletic build. I had no curves. Like I started to feel insecure. So I knew that I wanted to gain curves. I wanted to build a figure. Shortly thereafter, I discovered the world of weightlifting. So like I said, growing up, my parents would always weight train, so it was never super unfamiliar to me, but I discovered the world of weight training through the lens of social media, which was a whole other ballgame. So I saw these girls who were so sick, they had dope bodies, they were super hardworking, like hot as hell, but at the same time, like super successful, like business owners, just like badass women. And I was like, sign me up, like that's what I want to do with my life, that is who I want to be. And it was like ingrained in my head. And I learned that they built these bodies, which I loved because I was like, damn, they worked for that. They weren't genetically blessed. Like that's sick that they put in the work, they could lift super heavy and now they're hot as hell. Like I loved that like process of it, like working towards what they had. So I started to weight train here and there. I didn't really know, again, I didn't really touch my nutrition. I just kind of ate like what my family would eat, which again, definitely was very healthy. I just started training like in our home gym that we had, started lifting weights, looking up form, that sort of thing. Then September 2016, so later that year, I kind of just started to get more and more into it. Social media kind of became more and more a thing. I started to get more and more engulfed in the world of weight training and females in social media. I really started to research everything. I started to look up just like articles online and looked at YouTube videos, and I just like really started to admire these people that I saw online who were into fitness. October 2016, this is where it all started. Now, this is where it gets deep, but bear with me. I know it's just, trust me, it's not gonna be this heavy throughout the whole video. But this is like really the catalyst for it all. This really is how like the main why, the main fire in my belly to stay so damn consistent with this lifestyle, like this is why. So fall of senior year, basically my first boyfriend of a whole year had cheated on me. And it was like one of those situations where he was like my first everything. So like, and when you're that young, like you're so innocent, like first love, you know what I mean? Like you have no clue what betrayal, heartbreak feels like. And although I was young, I was like 17 at the time, and a lot of people scoff, you know, like even my own siblings are like, dude, like you're 17 in high school, like it's almost, it would be weird if your boyfriend didn't cheat on you in high school, you know what I mean? But me, I'm a very empathetic person. I'm super like sympathetic. When I love something or someone, like I am loyal as hell, and I've always been very emotionally mature. So like that might seem little to somebody, but like that wrecked me. Like I was shattered. And I'm so genuinely so thankful for it because it allowed me to discover my passion, and like all of this that I'm doing today indirectly has stemmed from this occurrence, because it like I was so broken, and like this was the only way that I could build myself up. Basically, after he had cheated on me, my self-confidence was like literally non-existent, not even not there. And the fact that he cheated on me almost like reinforced my idea that like I wasn't attractive enough, or that like my body wasn't good enough. So like the only thing I knew to do at that point was better myself. And I know it sounds so cliche, but genuinely, like, to me, that was like the best revenge that I could think of, because at that point when someone cheats, and like the high school, all that whole situation is so petty with the people who were involved with the other girl, all that stuff is so petty that I was like, there's no way to win in this situation other than just simply rising above, exiting with grace, being the bigger person, and holding yourself to a higher standard and ending up way up here when they're all staying down here. And going with that, I also had a huge branch of insecurity as well, because I was like, I am just going to elevate who I am as a whole so that no one would ever have any other reason to leave me in the future. So it was almost out of like fear. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I needed to do, nope. This was so long ago, and I was like in high school, it doesn't even matter. None of these people matter. It's more so it's like my personal growth that happened at that point in time. Just, it was like astonishing, and I'm still so proud of myself today for the way that I acted back then, because I felt like that's why he had cheated, was because I wasn't enough. So I wanted to put in the work to make sure and change and like prove myself to everyone that I am enough, and that I will get to a point where then I will be considered enough, which is like just sad thinking about now. So basically, like, this is when I really, really turned to the gym, when I was at my lowest point, my most broken. Like, it was the only thing that gave me hope. It was the only thing that I thought was going to be a solution and a fix to the situation. So like, that's why the gym means so much to me now. And like, it's like irreplaceable. Like, why sometimes I like still get emotional in the gym, because I have such an emotional tie to it, because this experience led me to turn to the gym. I still remember, like, a little bit after it happened, I obviously would work out to help like release anxiety, and just obviously I was feeling so many emotions at that point, like after being cheated on. And I just remember like breaking down on the leg press and just like crying. And it's just as like, I get chills now, because it's just like all those little moments when I felt like so broken, and like that I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really have a direction. It was like I just was latching onto the gym like with so much hope, like, please have this be what saves me and makes me feel empowered and makes me feel like I am worthy. Like, and I know that sounds so dramatic, but again, like at that point in my life, when you're that sad, that upset, like that's truly the magnitude to what I was feeling. Going to the gym and lifting was the only thing that made me feel like I was in control when I was in a situation that I had absolutely no control over. You know, like at that point I remember wanting so bad that I wished that I could undo what he did, and I couldn't, and it was out of my control. So this was the one thing that I felt like I was in control of. It was the one thing that made me feel strong and empowered, and it was just an outlet for me to be able to be with myself and process everything that was going on at the time. It was like meditative for me, just to put my music in and just sit with myself, because that was truly what I needed at that time. Because honestly, there was nothing anybody could do. I couldn't undo what he did, he couldn't undo what he did, my friends couldn't undo what he did. Like, it just came down to the point where I needed to accept what was happening, and in order to do that, like, I needed to sit with myself. And obviously it helped me so much mentally at the time, for sure, but at the same time I was acting out of a huge place of insecurity as well. So all throughout my senior year I lifted and also did sports, and I honestly did see like a good amount of progress just because I was so active and I was eating everything. The following year of August 2017 is when I started college. Now, this was the year that I went hardcore, to say the least. This was definitely the most obsessive and meticulous I've ever been in my fitness journey, and I was 18 years old. Like, looking back, like I was so young. Like, what was I doing? I started at a school that I really did not want to go to. If you don't know, I go to Penn State. So I was super bummed out. I really didn't want to be there. I just had a bad attitude with being there. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So when I tell you that lifting in school was my life, lifting in school was my life. Like, I'm not over exaggerating, it was all that I did. I had no friends. I worked out all the time, 6 days a week. I never ever went out. I never ever drank. I could count on like one hand how many times that I had drank freshman year. Literally, I would eat the same thing at the dining hall every single day. The workers knew my order. I wouldn't even have to say anything. I would just like show up and see my face. They would know what I would get for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No joke. Like, I would have like huge two turkey burgers on a wheat bun. I would have just like a ton of egg whites with like some sort of vegetable in the morning, with like wheat bread or oatmeal or like a salad. And this is definitely, I would say, like, I kind of was struggling when I didn't even know. I think it's called orthorexia, when you're like addicted to healthy eating, that was for sure me. Like I never got ice cream at the dining hall there. I never bought their pasta, their pizza. Like I didn't get one unhealthy thing that whole year from the dining hall. And like I really struggled mentally. Like I felt like if I had any unhealthy food that was labeled bad, like that's what would make me gain weight. I didn't really understand the kind of concept of calories in versus calories out. And you know, my whole half of my fitness journey, I did not care about numbers at all. So like I never tracked my food. I never even really tracked my weights. I just made sure that I was going, it was heavier the more that I went. I didn't care about my measurements. I didn't care about how much I weighed. I didn't know what my waist size was. I didn't know what my glutes were. It was solely just like if I felt confident and if I liked what I see in the mirror. So with that being said, since I didn't really track anything, my strategy was just like lift as heavy as you can, as often as you can, with as good as form as you can, and eat as much as you can. So I like put on muscle. I really didn't put on a lot of fat, and my body just everything that I ate. In terms of like my mental aspects of fitness, I didn't really meditate. I didn't journal. I didn't really have any mindful elements to my fitness routines. I started to hear about the law of attraction at this time and like the universe, the concept of the universe through like the documentary The Secret. So that whole year I went through a bulk. Then March, so at the end of my freshman year of college, I wanted to go for my first cut, and it actually was successful. I, again, didn't track any of my food. Basically, all I did was just start to add in some cardio. I did some like HIIT cardio because I like researched and saw that like that was good to keep muscle gains as well as like burn fat, yada yada. I did that a couple times a week and just started to eat a little bit less. So September of 2018 rolls around, and that was the start of my freshman year of college. Now, of course, this is how I always work, even to this day. When I'm leaner, I want to be thicker. When I'm thicker, I want to be leaner, and it's an ever-ending vicious frickin' cycle. So at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to have like a butt again and gain more weight. So I decided to go through another bulk. Basically, I just repeated my same strategy that I did my freshman year, except for this time I was actually living in an apartment for my sophomore year, so I was able to make my own food instead of eating in the dining hall, which was amazing. Then December rolls around of that year. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time because he went into the Air Force. Of course, how it normally goes. I started to be more social. I started to hang out with my 2 new roommates more. I met a bunch more people. You know what happens when you meet more people in college? I started to actually party and I started to drink. Also, again, keep in mind at that point I was still in a caloric surplus. Again, I tracked at that point. I was eating anywhere between 2,500 and 2,700 calories at the time, plus drinking every weekend. I was a girl that was like shoving down ground turkey and brown rice literally before we'd like go out on a Friday night. Like I was that person. Obviously, I started to gain weight. It didn't really catch up to me until like I would say like February, March of 2019. But basically, I freaked out because it was the heaviest I'd ever been in my entire life. Like I said, I was used to being stick thin. I've never really had a high amount of body fat ever. So it was all very, very new to me. So I started to do a little bit more research about cutting, and that's when I learned, everyone of course is like, you need to track your calories. You need to be eating in a deficit. Basically, went online, did the stupid calorie calculator thing. Of course, at that point, when I put in my weight and my height and my age, whatever, it's gonna spit out around 2,000, 2,200 calories for my maintenance. They go, okay, if this girl needs to be in a deficit, she probably needs to eat 1,750 probably. So that's assuming that I'm already eating at maintenance, but I was eating at a surplus, right? So I didn't understand that I needed to slowly decrease from the surplus and not just jump down to the 1,750. Just let that sink in, you guys. I cut my calories by like literally almost 1,000 calories. That is like the biggest no-no. If you take one thing away from this video, don't do that. So on top of that, I ramped up my cardio. This was all like overnight. I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Cut my calories by 1,000, do 4 sessions of high intensity cardio a week. Like it just was such a bad plan. So I did like 4 high intensity cardio sessions a week. Awful, 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 awful. This was when everything started to go downhill. I started to lose weight initially. I gained it all back. Plus more, my cortisol levels spiked through the roof. My hair started to fall out. My period was late. So bad. That was like, but honestly, looking back, this is when I really started to learn so much more about fitness. So then, that summer, this was like the most uncomfortable that I'd ever been in my entire life, the most unconfident that I'd ever been, the worst relationship that I'd ever had with myself, the most negative self-talk that I'd ever had with myself, all a new experience. Like I was like, what is happening? Like I almost like I couldn't stand to be in my own body. So I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to make a plan. I need to hold a strict plan to hold me accountable because clearly I'm not being consistent with my plan. which wasn't true. It really wasn't. I just wasn't doing the right things. So I was like, you're gonna track your macros, you're gonna weigh yourself regularly, and you're gonna track all your progress, your measurements. I gave myself a hard weight loss goal and a really hard timeline. I was like, you're gonna lose 5 pounds in 6 weeks, da-da-da-da-da. I thought it was what I needed. It did not work. I didn't even finish the challenge. I didn't even finish the 6 weeks. I lost like 1 to 2 pounds. Then I just plateaued. I just still felt awful internally. Like my headspace was the worst it's ever been. July 2019, July, August, like I said, kept trying to lose weight. Nothing worked for me, and I was between like 140 pounds, 140 and 142 pounds that summer. Because I felt so crappy about myself, I ended up turning to journaling and spirituality to help with my mindset and simply my relationship with myself, because I was constantly battling myself all day long. This is again why I'm super passionate about journaling and why spirituality and all this means so much to me, is because this is what pulled me out of this really dark headspace that I was going through. I started to learn about the power of like positive self-talk, vibrations, frequencies. It really allowed me just to strip myself of my ego, of what I looked like, of what society was telling me I should look like, and just focus on me for me and say, forget all that stuff, forget your shell. Who am I? Why am I great? Why do I deserve to be loved just because I'm me? Just because I have a spirit, because I have a soul. Looking back, like I think this is the most beautiful, transformative part of my fitness journey, is because this is when I truly found and discovered and grew a relationship with myself and with my soul. And like it was so empowering. So during this time, I also learned more about the benefits of low intensity cardio and with walking, which I used to scoff at. That fall, I went back to school again for my junior year, and I started to drink a lot again because it was tailgating season. I gained any weight that I lost, I gained it back and more. I remember coming home, I weighed myself, and I was like 144 pounds, highest I'd ever been, still so unconfident. And at this point, I tried to track again, on and off when I was at school. I tried to track, didn't work because for some reason I just didn't think carrots and hummus had calories. Then January of 2020 was my time to go abroad. So I studied abroad in Alicante, Spain, and I stayed with a host mom. So I wasn't like in a apartment where I was able to cook my own food or anything like that. I did get a gym membership. I was decently consistent. I probably went like 4 days a week, but since my diet wasn't really there, it's not like I was really crushing my sessions. And at that time, I took my measurements. You know, when I was really the heaviest I'd been, that's when I started to get really in my head about numbers. So at that point, I was like, I'm curious, I want to measure myself. So at that point, my waist was a 28 and my glutes were a 39. I really was not eating a lot at this point at all, because my host mom, she was older and she ate very healthy. So just everything, she wouldn't give me a lot in general. Plus what she was giving me was low calorie. And on top of that, like we never really had healthy fats. Healthy fat intake, I don't even want to know how low it was. And I probably was eating like 1,000 to 1,300 calories a day. But again, I didn't think anything of it because I was abroad and I just was living life with walking a ton, not eating a lot. I lost weight. I lost like 10 pounds while I was there. Honestly, majority of it was muscle because I couldn't lift as heavy. My protein was so low and just my calories were simply so low. But I didn't look good with 10 pounds down. I just more so it looked deflated more than anything. During this time, because I was eating little, didn't have a lot of healthy fats, I actually lost my period and I developed hypothalamic amenorrhea, which I had no clue at the time. I didn't know what it was. March of this year is when we had to come back to the States because of the pandemic. Obviously, I had a ton of time because of the quarantine. I just wanted to get my training, my all again, see where I could take my physique, and I was just determined to get back to a place where I was proud of my physique and just start feeling like myself again. This time, I made a whole plan, but what's different was that I made process goals instead of deadline goals like I did last summer, and that's, I think, what really was the game changer for me. I really changed the perspective and said, this is what I'm gonna do day in and day out for my process, and not really care about the end goal, where the end goal is, just more so what I'm gonna do day in and day out, because I inevitably will get to a place that I'm happy with. And this took so much pressure off actually achieving the goal itself, and I think that's why it worked so well for me at the time. I made a really well-rounded training schedule. I ate really intuitively, and I just paid super close attention to my hunger cues. I didn't track a thing. I kept consistently losing weight. I still had a good relationship with food. I felt amazing. I went through a bunch of body recomposition. I gained back some muscle. I lost some fat. I just all around tightened up, and I felt so good. I kept steadily losing weight. In May, I was like 135 pounds. I remember weighing myself when I got home. Then the lowest weight that I'd gotten down to, which was honestly the lowest I'd ever seen the scale, was 127.6 pounds, which is very light for me. I'm 5'6.5". My body fat percentage got super, super low, and then my measurements got down to a little bit less than 26 inches when I was like 28 inches in my waist in January, and my glutes shrunk to a 37, which they were 39 in January as well when I was in Spain. And then in terms of my mentality, I got super, super in tune with myself, super, super into journaling. I started to actually be consistent with practicing meditation. I really started to value manifestations, positive self-talk, and just being really conscious of my mindset, creating my reality, thinking of my vibration and the energy that I'm embodying, which now I genuinely consider as a whole other facet to my health and to my fitness and well-being. Now, at that point, I still hadn't gotten my period from February of when I was in Spain, when I first developed hypothalamic amenorrhea, which I didn't know about. So then in August, I was like, you know what? I need to get this checked out. Went to the doctor, got my hormones tested. Test came back, everything is normal except for my estrogen. Now the normal estrogen range, which is a very big range because it depends on your age and just like where you are in your menstrual cycle. The normal range is anywhere from 20, which is like a post-menopausal grandmother, anywhere to 300. Mine was 17, which was so low for my age. The doctors were like, so this is a huge indicator that it was due to my diet and exercise. So my gynecologist obviously wanted to put me on progesterone to like kickstart my period, get my hormones back to normal, and then after that put me on birth control to regulate everything. I personally really did not want to do that. I don't know why. I've never been on birth control and I don't want to be. I just really wanted to heal myself naturally because I was so confident that I could. So at that point I knew that I really had to like reevaluate my training routine, and at that point I was like determined to heal myself naturally. September of 2020 to November of 2020 is all of my recovery phase. This is when I knew that I had to cool out on my high intensity exercise, eat a little bit more, stop lifting so heavy, decrease just my all around activity level, and just give my body some rest. Obviously, I gained weight, but a majority of it was body fat and not a lot of muscle because I wasn't really training because I needed to let my body recover. Which this is obviously a super, super important part of the recovery process with HA because body fat actually plays a big role in regulating estrogen. I gained about 5 pounds on average. It was definitely kind of hard to like consciously let the scale go up, you know what I mean? When I'd worked so hard to get so like shredded, but I knew it was just like, I kind of just needed to pivot and create a different goal for myself. Now that leads us to today. I know this was so long. I have gotten 4 periods so far. Ooh, actually only 3, but that just shows my 4th period is coming. I've only gotten 3, but I just said that with so much confidence. That means, okay, I'm gonna get the 4th one. My main goal is still overall hormonal health, not being so hyper-focused on like, am I bulking or cutting? Now I can honestly say this is the strongest, kindest relationship I've ever had with myself in my life, and the best relationship that I've ever had just with faith in life and in the universe as a whole. I feel super, super at peace with everything. I feel super, super at peace with everything I've been through with my fitness journey. I have realized there's so much more than the way you look, and that the lessons that come with fitness are so much more important than your physique at the time. So I've just come to peace with the fact that like this is the way that I look, and that's beautiful because there's only one of me. I don't always love the way that I look in the mirror, but a really big lesson that I've learned is that you can still love something without loving the way that it looks. And that's really how I feel. I still love myself unconditionally. I really do feel like I love my body. I can honestly say that regardless of the way that it looks. I just am proud of the person that I am today, and I have no shame in saying that. I just think that this whole fitness there's such a transformative journey mentally and physically that comes with fitness, and that's why I love it. This video was so long, but thank you guys for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I hope you learned something. I hope you took away something. And for the whole month of December, I'm planning on actually uploading 2 videos a week. So if that interests you, definitely subscribe so you don't miss any of them. I'm sending you guys so much love, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.